Yeah, I'm Richard Holder. Time to get those projects done. So today we're going to talk about a couple things. First of all, I have the photo on the thumbnail of the 5.9 liter Dodge, and it looks like it's all back together and ready to go, except there's more of a story there. It's actually not back together and ready to go. It's just back together and ready to be put in the truck and taken down to West Tech, where I need to do more work on it. All I did was and this could be considered a success also, because before it was all apart all over the table and the garage and everything, and all I did was basically piece together everything, put it back in one big lump, and cleaned up the area. Because what I'm going to do is take it down to West Tech, and I still need to do a couple more things to it. I have the small comp cam that I ran in. I have the stock cam. I also have the cam from the UT Awesome guys, which I'm going to run. Both the comp cam and the UT Awesome cam are fairly mild. I like the UT Awesome cam because it has a tighter LSA. So I'm thinking it's going to enhance torque production even more. I'm going to run some more testing on the intake manifold that they sent, and the very cool throttle body, which is going to be our topic of discussion for today after we talk a little bit about the project updates. So what I need to do is the one thing that's concerning me about that project, about that 5.9, is that there's rust in one of the cylinders. I think, given the fact that it's a wrecking yard motor, that's not going to be an issue. We've run this motor a lot. It's just that in sitting and transport, it got rain on it or whatever. But what I think is going to happen is I still have to take the pistons out and swap them back after the piston flip deal that I did with the guys from Engine Masters, to demonstrate whether or not that's some sort of magical thing that made any power. And as we know, it did not. I've got to put them back in their proper orientation. While I'm doing that, I'm going to change the ring gap. But when I take that piston out, if I have to, I might be able to just scuff it up with, Scotch-Brite or emery cloth or sandpaper or whatever. It's a wrecking yard motor. It's not going to care. If I have to, I'll hit it with a ball hone. It's not going to be a big deal. It's down at the bottom of the bore, so it's not going to be nearly as much of an issue of sealing. So I'm hoping that all of that will work out, and we've done that kind of thing before, so that shouldn't be a problem. None of the other ones had a problem. I'm not obviously going to have to put new head gaskets on it, which is not an issue. So I just got to scrape everything off. And I probably will. I will have to do a valve spring upgrade on that as well to run these other cams. So we'll do a valve spring upgrade, and where I'm gonna throw a Super Richie razor blade rebuild at it. I'm gonna scrape everything off with the razor blade. I'm going to probably, when I upgrade the springs, I'll take the valves and we'll clean them all on the wire brush, on the wire wheel, and then also just put a little bit of lapping compound on there and hit them with the drill and get a good contact pattern there, and that should all work out, and they should seal and work well enough for kind of what we're doing. And then later on, we'll be upgrading to either ported heads or different heads or those kinds of things on the Dodge. So that's all going well. The other update is the 3800. I talked about a camshaft that I had made for it that I'm combining with 1.9 rockers. So the camshaft that I had, I'm having ground for it, is a 226 240 113 plus 3, which, if you do the calculations on it, gives us about 7 degrees of overlap. The other camshaft, the NIC cam, I think had only 1 degree of overlap. It was a 220 230. So we've stepped up, another stage, as it were, in camshaft. I'm gonna have to use a 1.9 rocker to get something in the mid 500 lift range, which will be fine. Getting the 1.9 rockers will also allow me to test 1.9 rockers maybe on a stock camshaft to see what they actually do. And I could do that I could do that as an NA test and then also as a supercharged test, which would be good information for the 3800 community. So I may go to the trouble of doing that. Because the NIC cam is in there, I could theoretically do a test on what that camshaft does versus this new camshaft with the 1.9 rockers, because I want the lift from the 1.9 rockers. it's going to be it's going to be really low lift if it doesn't have the extra rocker ratio. So I could do some interesting cam tests before I go whole hog and put the ported heads that Turbo Monza is doing for me. We can run those as well. If you saw some of the comments from the video last night, he was asking me if I thought it would make 350 horsepower NA, and I think that's a lot. It would be nice. I would be really happy if it did that. I don't know if we have enough camshaft and enough compression to do that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. The number I'm hoping for is I'm hoping that the NA power output goes from the 265 or 270 range to 300. And if I can get that, and we continue to track the way that we were when we ran the turbo on the 3800 previously, that will still be looking pretty good. So those are updates on the 3800 and the 5.9. I want you guys to let me know when you're watching the video, whether you're watching this live or you're coming in after the live feed stops. Let me know what project you guys are working on. Let me know what project you're working on. And as always, every day that we do this AM version, let me know what project you're working on and tell me one thing you're going to get done today. So hopefully you hold yourself accountable and you'll list something that you're going to get done. What's up, Richard? Part number to the studs. I don't know what studs you're talking about. Just got the oil pan out of the IS300. Good. The aerosol overhaul. Yeah, that's good. I have a valve grinder willing to donate to the cause that beats the drill method. It would be a lot better to actually do a valve job on it. I don't know that this motor, given how well it's run already and how repeatable it is, in the condition that it's in right now, I don't think it needs a valve job yet. It might down the line, and that might help things. But right now, at the power level that it's at, that's probably not going to be necessary. If I do something with the cylinder head that's going to involve doing a valve job, I would like to do something that's also going to change the power more than that. Because I've done this before on LS and small block Ford and small block Chevy, where we've taken a head off that's a junkyard head that doesn't look very good and doesn't, and if you look at the valves, where the contact patch is between the valve and the seat, it's pitted and doesn't look good. That's why we do the drill and try to smooth them out a little bit. But then when you do a real valve job on it, I always wanted to change the power a lot, and it just never has. So if we did a ported version of that head that we also included a valve job in it, maybe even a bigger valve or something, then that's something I would be interested in. But just spending the money to do a valve job on a stock head for this kind of power level, I think is a waste of resource. So let me know what you guys got going on let's talk about some of your projects that you have going on. Let's see what you guys are doing on a Saturday morning. Do you have any other projects to do with the Atlas, or no, the Atlas hasn't run its course at all. In fact, I need to get back on that. That's another one that's on the list of things to do. The two that I was talking about today are just the 3800 and the 5.9, because the 5.9 is here in my garage. Dialing in the MAF transfer function today. That's good. That'll help the thing run really well. ECU burnt. Looking to buy an aftermarket. They burned up the factory ECU. My update, setting 2 shelving units in the new garage. I should be wrenching on the C4 Corvette LS swap. Oh, that'll be good. Those C4 Corvettes are really good. The handling is amazing. They're really aerodynamic. Oil change and tire rotation on the 98 K1500. Nice. I'm going to work on my shed. Do some insulating. Sheet my bench. Nice. Let's see. Richard, thanks for all the advice you've given me. I appreciate taking the time out to respond. No problem, man. Well, I'll always here to help. Installing a Terminator X to the Vortec 92L. Ooh, a notchback. Nice. We'll be data logging some. Cool. Hoping to get some boost gauge installed by tomorrow. Oh, I do like boost gauges. Dan's fabricating a brake dual master cylinder assembly with hydraulic clutch master cylinder for the Porsche 930. You have to fabricate one? I already put the big red, the lobster claws. Unless you're a Porsche guy, the lobster claws. Big red. Oh, a Paget RS14s. Okay, cool. Infamous Nova. What studs are you talking about? Wrenching. I'm debating on if I should go with a 351 EFI in my OBS 4 or do a Hot Rod 300 in it. Both of those are good choices. That's more of the thing that speaks to you. A 300 would be different and also cool. You could do a 300 with a little turbo on it, and that would be cool. And happy anniversary. Waiting for the 2.2 to crush the 3800. I think that's a pretty tall order, but the 2.2 should be good. I'm excited about doing all that testing. What are you working on today? The things I'm going to do today are, I'm debating ordering the rockers right now. I was second guessing myself today on I was going to talk to the guys at Comp about doing a different camshaft and see how that works out. And I'm also going to take the tire down for the Nova and have a new valve stem put in it. And I also have to finish my video right after this. I have to do the video on the 600 horsepower big block Chevy combos. Oil pan replacement on a 2J IS300. Cool. Is it a turbo? Making sure my turbo oil feed and drain don't leak in my LSS10 I replaced yesterday. 3R makes an amazing silicone I bought after seeing Jeff Lutz. Well, he knows. Oh, you're porting a Magnum cylinder head? Good. Big block Chevy Gen 6 ARP head studs for Pro Comp Speedmaster heads. I don't remember specifically which ones we used because I probably had 3 or 4 sets there, and we may have even mixed and matched them. But I'll see if I can look in the ARP catalog and figure that out. I'm currently trying to select the proper cam for my engine, but it tends to cause a lot of drama among people because it's a Ford Cleveland. Because it's a Cleveland doesn't make any difference. It just means that you have to have the right cam family to fit in there. But the specs on the cam are going to be real similar to a Windsor cam. On a Cleveland, I think you might tend to go more exhaust duration than a Cleveland would, but I mean than a Windsor would, but you know, all of that so works. Comp has lots of off the shelves. I wouldn't put a single pattern cam in a Cleveland even more than other combinations. Yes, stay hydrated, my friend. Oh, non-turbo for now. Yeah, that's okay. 1.7 on the 2J. 1.7 roller rockers were a nice daily driver mod for the Magnums. They added a little bit of torque right where you needed it with no tuning. Cool. Range Rover V8 3.9 need to diagnose a loss of power after ignition failure and replacement. What size cam are you thinking for the 3800? Did I miss it? Yeah, I talked about it just a little bit earlier. It's a 226, 240, 113. Working on a Mark IV 427 big block, very cool. 68 Chrysler 440 and LM twin turbo. All those are good. I have a Honda Beat sitting here. It needs an oil change. There's a never-ending. It's never-ending for project cars. Finishing the door bar mounts on the bolt-in 6-point bar on my C5 convertible, so I can unleash all the head cam and intake exhaust goodness and run under 1350 legally. Oh, you need that in a convertible? Well, safety first, man. I don't know what the lift is. I think it's mid 500s. With the 1.9. Let me see if I can figure out what we were doing on lobe. And scrolling. Yeah, 570 or 580. What maybe choose that grind? I think it's going to be better than the NIC cam, and also I'm limiting myself to a little bit smaller cam because I don't know actually what the available piston to valve clearance is. So I'm choosing something that I think is going to fit and will still make more power than what was in there before. Did you reference it off of the NIC? I didn't check anything off the NIC. I'm pretty sure that this cam is going to make more power than that cam did. Cleveland's generally respond well to dual pattern with a little more exhaust. Yeah, I mean, I think most motors do that, so I think that's a pretty safe statement. The Cleveland has a lot of intake flow relative to its exhaust flow, and so I think that the ones that I don't have nearly as much Cleveland cam testing data, and even running the Clevelands. I think I've only run 4 or 5 of them. Richard, my 4.3-liter Vortec won't die near 0 oil pressure at idle hot, over 40 when cold. I'll put 4,000 miles on it, gathering LS stuff. Good. Well, that's what you want. You want the thing to still drive around while you're building the other motor. What would a big block powered Formula One car be like? It would be a lot heavier than they want it to be. Tom, I don't know. We've asked this question a lot, and I was talking to some people about this the other day, about why 4-valve motors have more intake duration and a lot of times lift than they do exhaust duration on the 4-valve heads. And immediately everybody points to the intake to exhaust flow relationship. But I think if you look at the intake to exhaust flow relationship on some of those heads, that's not the only answer. There's something else going on there, and I'm also not convinced and haven't seen enough test data that shows me that's actually a better combination on a 4-valve motor. So I would need to do more testing on that to see. I'd like to see on Honda engines, on Coyote engines. I've done some testing on cams on 4-valve modular Fords. And it might be that everybody does that because that's the way that the stock ones were. And then they're just continuing that when they're doing the aftermarket cams. I don't know anybody that's done testing to find out if we put, like if we have an intake cam of some size, let's say it's 220 at 50, and then we have an exhaust cam that's 218 or 216. What happens if we keep the 220 intake cam in there and then put a bigger exhaust cam in there? What if it's 220 and then 230 on the exhaust? I've never seen any sort of cam comparison like that on a 4-valve motor, and I've never seen on any motor where that didn't add power. So it might also do that on the 4-valve stuff. I think if you have, like I was talking about, a 220 and a 216 on the exhaust, and then you go down in size on the intake, I can see how that's going to lose power. Because effectively, for me, the intake cam is kind of what I measure how the bigness of the cam and how effective it's going to be. The exhaust is, for me, is secondary. So I think if you keep that intake the same and make the exhaust bigger, I honestly don't see how that's not going to add power. But I haven't done enough testing on that to tell you that happens every time that I've tested it. I do need to add that to my list of things to do. Still can't get my B20V to rev past 4,000. Got my speedo working, hardwired VTEC, and still can't rev past 4,000. Wondering if my launch control activating. So, something else, some sort of limiter is happening there. because it obviously it will do that. So something's holding it back. The part rats are back with the oil filter. Oh, there you go. So get it done, man. Get her done. I'm at work right now for 45 more minutes. I'm going to be doing this earlier in the morning on the weekdays. That's going to start at 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, Julian, Tom's got a good idea. If you're logging anything, if you can see what's happening, if you can see a bunch of timing retard or something, that would give you an idea. So so what needs to happen on the 4200? The 4200 needs to be put back together. I think that the short block is done, and I think that the head's done also. So I think that just needs to be assembled. The slant 6 also just needs to be put back together. The Cadillac's going back together. When I go down there, it's just a lot. It's just a lot of stuff. A vehicle speed sensor on the trans can cause that. It usually throws a code, but if the vehicle speed sensor is not plugged in or you're using the factory ECU, that will definitely stop it from going into VTEC. Do you know anything about the Low Volume Motor Vehicle Manufacturer Act of 2015? No, I don't. That doesn't sound familiar to me. The only progress on the Nova is the tire, at least for today. And Julian, you should probably turn off the launch control if you can. Just remove it or take it away. Just get rid of it. It's causing problems. So on the 5.9 Magnum, what do you guys think? Do you think that the beer keg intake manifold can make power? So that I think we got to have a poll for today, right? Yeah, we got to have a poll for this morning. Dodge 5.9 liter Magnum. Okay, so the poll for today is about the Dodge Magnum, since that's the one that I put the photo up on. On the Dodge 5.9 Magnum, does a dual plane carbureted intake make more peak torque than the kegger manifold? Boom, and our poll is up. And I'm going to take a look at some data real quickly here. So hopefully you guys are still seeing me while I'm watching this. I'm watching you, watching me, watching you. So we'll take a look at Dodge results here. 360 Magnum. So we got an intake test. And we're rocking out. Okay. And then okay. Oh, I forgot. When we did that test, we also did spacers, which was interesting. And I think I even bet Freiberger what was going to happen on the spacers. Did not like that. Yeah, and that's kind of what I would expect. We did a 4-hole and an open spacer on the dual plane. So what are guys saying here so far? We have does a dual plane carbureted intake make more peak torque than a kegger? We got it's split 50-50 right now. Get those votes up there. Let's see. Assuming it's because my big throttle body injectors make the factory ECU run bad, a retune and hopefully make 200 horsepower NA if everything works. A big throttle body will have no effect. The injectors will have an effect on air fuel. If you're trying to run it on the factory tune, it's going to be spraying too much fuel. You might try, do you have an air fuel meter on it so you can see what the air fuel actually is? If it's way too fat, try bringing down the fuel pressure if you have an adjustable fuel pressure regulator. Can you put your K24 on the dyno at Westech? No, because they don't have an adapter to run that. That's why we ran it at, I would really like to run it at Westech because then I would be in more control of stuff. I'd like to run that there, but we ran it over with the guys at Skunk. I'm assuming former Pro Stock iron Cleveland heads with exhaust port plates to help with port velocity. Yeah, they completely altered the exhaust position and shape. The intake port floors have been raised with good results on the flow bench. All is well good. So that's a different that's a different head. I wish I was a mechanic so I understood what the pole meant. It just means which intake manifold is going to make more torque. I usually use an open spacer on everything. I don't know that I would universally say that. They don't work good on everything. They worked to the open spacer was terrible on this dual plane on the Dodge. It made a lot less power than it made a little bit more peak at the top, but just killed the low speed power. So what's the $20 bet that you're talking about here? Uh, 500 horsepower NA or 500 horsepower on 14.5 pounds. I would rather have the bigger motor on a tow vehicle. I'm going to say the carb intake will make more torque with a bigger cam, and the kegger will make more torque with a stock cam. Okay. Quadrijet carbs really need it. Hollies are not sensitive. Quadrijet carbs really need what? Quadrijet carbs really need an open spacer. The spacer is going to affect the carburetor the same. Our 4-valve Cleveland intakes would flow just over 340 on the intake with the super sockers, raised epoxy floors. Yeah, because a lot of the bottom part of the opening of the intake port is not doing anything. It's just because coming from the valve, the port goes like this and then down, and all of this big opening does nothing. If the opening has to go up and then in, that's just not good. I'd be willing to chip in some money to get a K24 adapter for the Westech dyno. We might be able to do that. I think I searched around for a while to see if there was a K series to Chevy adapter already available, which there might be. I went from an open spacer to a 4-hole on a cutlass with a dual plane. It ran a lot better. And again, it's not universal that the 4-hole does. It's not universal that spacers do anything. Sometimes they do something, sometimes they don't. Sometimes on some applications they do things, sometimes on others they don't. That's why we test them. That's why when we were running it, not as much anymore, but before 10 years back or more, whenever we ran a carbureted thing, a spacer was just something that we would try no matter what we were doing. We would try, because the guys at Westech have a bunch of Wilson spacers, so they have, they have half-inch ones, 1-inch ones, they have open ones, they have 4 holes, they have tapered combos. We'd take the taper combo, flip it over the other direction, just try all kinds of stuff. And that's kind of cool testing, because you go, oh, well, on this one it liked it or it didn't or whatever, and then you always have more data. Doing all that testing, we never came across a universal thing. Typically, a 4-hole spacer tends to reduce the carb signal and hurt power down low, and can improve power up top, because it's making the dual plane, especially a completely divided dual plane, not be able to act like that anymore, because now it has a common reference, which, like I said, can be beneficial and would tend to do it because it's transitioning the dual plane into maybe acting a little bit more like a single plane, is kind of the way that I describe it. I wish somebody would make port adapters for the LS exhaust for turbos. I wish someone would make port adapters for the LS exhaust manifolds for turbos. So I don't understand what you're wanting there. There are lots of LS exhaust manifolds for turbos. The stock ones work for turbos. So I don't understand what you're wanting there. I put a spacer on that had spray bars. It ran a lot better. Yeah, you spray stuff through the spray bars. That works good. Off topic, Richard, but do you ever watch UFC? I haven't watched any of those fights in a long time. I really liked GSP and those guys back in the day, but I haven't watched. And I maybe I've watched 1 or 2 of Connor's things a while back, but not recently. I haven't. How hard is it to tune a 94 Magnum on a stock PCM? If you have access to the stock PCM and you can change things in it, then I don't think it's that hard. But I don't do any factory tuning on stock ECUs, so I'm not the right guy to ask that, because I don't even know if they're. I know for the Magnums, for a 94, I would think that they would have access to, but I know for a long time that the Dodge stuff was hard to get into and hard for people to adjust. So let's see how our poll is doing. 55% are saying no, that a dual plane carb intake will make more peak than the kegger, and 45% are saying yes. To adapt the LS manifolds to other heads like FEs. Oh, okay. That shouldn't be that hard to do. There are adapters for headers for various things, so I wouldn't think that would be as a plate that hard to do. And honestly, I don't think you need to adapt LS manifolds to an FE. You just use the FE manifolds and run boost off of the FE manifolds. They'll work just fine. Or if somebody makes any kind of shorty header, or you could make your own shorty header for that. But like I said, a stock exhaust manifold on almost all these applications will make plenty of power with a turbo. What's your vote, Richard? Do you think the dual plane will make more power? The question isn't power. The question is peak torque. It will definitely make more power. We know that, because having already tested this, and I can't vote because I already know the answer, because I've already run that test. I did it with the guys from Engine Masters, and I was kind of curious as to what was going to happen, because the kegger to me the kegger is a big rounded tune port manifold. They're trying to make lots and lots of torque, and it's pretty cool. I was really excited about seeing the inside of one for the first time, and then seeing the modifications that people were doing to them, and trying to figure out what I would do to go about making that thing better. And it just comes down to the same kind of things. You shorten the runner length to get more power. I would like to try some divider tricks and things just to kind of see what would happen, but I know what the answer is there already. Even a quated square tube log manifold will work with turbos even if it's suboptimal. Yeah, you could put anything on there. I mean, you know, back in the day, guys would use Schedule 40 stuff. So if you can have you make a flange, which is available, I'm sure. If not, it's pretty easy to water jet one or laser cut one, and then just have exhaust stubs sticking out. And if you took a piece of rectangular tubing and capped one end and put the turbo flange on the other end and put holes in it and welded it to the stubs on the other one, that actually would work very well for a turbo application. You know, it doesn't have the swoopy bends and the optimal flow and all the things that people want to talk about, but it gets all of the exhaust to the turbo and it would make boost and make power. Endyne modified Cleveland heads I'm using are going to require a special grind cam that compared to the standard 4V quench chamber iron heads. The build is a well, if you're building a pro stock motor, that's a different thing then. Why are you asking me about camshafts for a pro stock motor? I'm not that guy. Still at 51.49. People are still on the fence about whether or not that's going to happen. So what else do you guys got going on your project? I'm going to scroll back here at the beginning when I was standing on my soapbox and see what's going on. Good morning, everyone. Time to get to the garage. That's right. Jerome, Peugeot 405 T16. Nice. Scrolling and I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling and scrolling. And we're scrolling. I guess I did go back and answer those questions. Data logging, yes, yes. Pro stock cams are huge. They are. We normally deal with cam lifts that are on that side of the decimal point. Theirs are on the other side of the decimal point. Mark, if I put mild boost in a 2011 Ford Ranger, do I need to change the computer settings? Yes, because the computer will not compensate for positive pressure more than likely. Don't know about that exact computer, but normally they don't. If it's a mass air meter and you'd have to data log this, sometimes you can get away with more airflow essentially through that. And you can, if you get to a point where you're not topping out the meter, because when they made the meter, when they designed the meter for that particular application, they gave it a dynamic range. So they said, well, this thing is not going to ever make any more than this amount. So the meter needs to be effective in this range. And when you're adding 30, 40, or 50% power, they may have not given you that much extra room for the meter to measure that much airflow. They give you, you know, it stops reading at some point and then just throws a code. Okay, that's too much. I'm way out of range because the thing should never be doing this. So as long as you don't get to that point, we did a lot of that back in the day of rescaling the mass air meters and stuff. And you can do that in programming, and sometimes that works fairly well, but usually it's you know, more tuning is required. And the other thing that's going to happen is on that application, because you're adding 30 or 40 or 50% more power, even for fairly mild boost, your fuel injectors also will not scale up like that. They, like the mass air meter, they size the injectors for the NA power output, and it's not usually maxed out. They usually have room to grow, but 10 or 20% or something, not 50 or 100% on the injectors. Usually they choose them and size them for the original NA power output. Brian, with all the mods you have done to the 5 Magnum, have you ever tried to do them all and smog it? I only run stuff on the engine dyno, so I don't ever do anything. We don't put that motor in a car to try to run smog on it. I don't know. You'd have to take a look and see what things are actually smog legal on for that are available for that motor. Is there a source for fuel injection harness for the 5.9 Magnum? Mean other than the factory one? The Holly that we use to run this has an injector harness, but it's just a V8 injector harness. It just has 4 on one side and 4 on the other, and they're just numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then they just plug into the harness. So I don't know if that. I hope that helps. Tom, I got the power steering hose off the F250 today. The plan is to put the new hose on before it's dark. I know. Ooh, AutoZone, next day shipping, good. Best towing cam for a 454 Gen 5. The Gen 5 is going to be a throttle body injected, so you're not going to be able to go really big. You're going to have to retune it when you put the cam in. But something small, an RV cam, a towing cam, 206, 212 kind of thing. 210, 218 maybe. I'll just make the cross pipe and put 2 passenger side pickup 360 FE manifolds on it and do it. Put a 4-inch out and it will be good. Yeah, the exhaust feeding the turbo is much less critical than the exhaust out of the turbo. The exhaust out of the turbo is important for boost response and power. The stuff feeding it, you can get away with a lot. I had a Ford Aerostar all-wheel drive van and put a turbocharger from an 86 Nissan 3-liter Z. No tuning, the exhaust was blowing on the radiator, but somehow it lived for 10 months of spirit driving. No, with no tuning, it did that? RSI Dynamics. Hello, you were going to see how much power you could make in a stock K24 with recap rings. I haven't run that yet. I'm still going to do that. I'm doing that with the guys from Skunk. Anyone, I'm looking for a small drive-by-wire throttle pedal sensor. What's the smallest one available? 6-wire for a Bosch drive-by-wire throttle body. The only 2 I've ever seen are the ones that we use on the GM. What do we use that on? Oh, we used it on the L83 and then also on the Coyote. So those are the only 2 that I've seen. Yeah, I don't understand how you could run 10 pounds with no tuning. Did you have stock injectors in it? And because you can't have enough fuel that I know of in any sort of stock application without changing that. And then if you change the injector size dramatically, although we would put up to 30-pound injectors in the Honda and without tuning it, and it did work okay. Daniel, one of my drivers is an L67 3800. So if you have anything new to share, it'd be greatly appreciated. I will after we get more testing done. Turned out the 98 Suburban needs new seal for the barn doors. Let's see, everything else besides the turbo and the exhaust were stock. No intercooler. I don't know how stock injectors would supply enough fuel for that. Seems like a lot. My progress is cleaning up my junkyard intake. What intake is it? Intake manifolds. I do like intake manifolds. You know what I really like on this 5.9 is the 3D printed throttle body that the UT Awesome guys sent. I was really impressed by that big monoblade deal. Do you know what a true story is? Something that really could have happened. Decapped injectors. Magic pixie dust. So anybody have any cool plans for the weekend? Is anybody like dropping their motor into a vehicle? A new style truck manifold. I once saw a 408 Magnum with an EQ heads and a dual plane make 500 foot-pounds on the dyno. That I think that's certainly realistic. Divided by 408. Yeah, the 1.22. That's yeah. That should easily be doable. What fuel management are you using on the 5.9? Are you using control timing? Yeah, we are. It's on the engine dyno, and we're running a Holley HP on it. I'm waiting for you to get done with the K24 so I can drop it into my Civic. I just put yours in. If it's got a turbo on it, you know it's easy to make 600 or 700 horsepower. You know it will do that. You hope your motor doesn't drop on the floor. Cheap, affordable, twin turbo Porsche. I'm sure that, did you put Brembos on it, or were they the red Brembo lobster claws? Not yet. Still need to check ring gap and assemble everything. Deshroud the valves. Daniel, this is interesting, and it actually works. A cheapo nitrous system manufacturer told me that the ECU would automatically enrich fuel because of the sudden temperature drop if nitrous was introduced before the inlet air temperature sensor. That does work. It will actually add fuel. I don't know how quickly it does it. I don't know if it does it quick enough to do it before the nitrous hits. And this was something that guys used to do also. They would spray it into the mass air meter, and the same thing would happen. I have a 3800 Series 2 supercharger. I'm thinking about putting it on my C10. Just need a Camaro 3.8 trans. I got the motor for free. Cool. They're good little motors, and as we showed, you can make some fairly serious power with them. Just here we go. This is a guy with a plan. Bear, I'm just trying to finish up wiring a two-step and a line lock on my LS Swap 65 wagon so I can go out and try out the new stall converter and do some John Force burnouts. See, that's what I like. I like that. That's a plan. You have a goal, and then you have the steps that you're taking to achieve that, and then now you just need to work on those steps, finish those things, and then the goal happens. That's perfect. Big red Brembos, fronts are on, so I have to put the rears on. They're huge. How big are the rotors on that, Dan? Are they 13, 14, 25? Corey, Richard, big fan from Canada up in the north, doing a 4.8 LQ9 cam and a big turbo. What's a good power estimate with 12 to 16 pounds? An LQ9 cam is still pretty small. So I'm thinking that thing is going to make 330, 350, 360. I don't know. It should be 30 horsepower maybe, or 20 horsepower better than a stock 4.8 than an LR4 camshaft. Not a lot. So at 16 pounds, let's say 15 pounds, I think you're going to be at 600 and something at the flywheel. You like the 3800s other than the leaking intakes? Did the intakes leak on the NA ones or on the blower ones? Fuel economy is nice too. Tyler, what's a Malwood adapter? 309 millimeters, only because I need them to fit, 16-inch wheels, yeah. Otherwise, I would have done 355s, yep. Same calipers, just change the spacer, yeah. That's the nice thing about just being able to space them out. My toy has a big block. It's on driveway hold down duty until the price of fuel comes down or the rates on tile go up. There you go. Well, the rates on tile should be up also, right? I mean, with the unless you just can't get them. Intakes leak on the NA ones, and they would fill up the intake ports and hydrolock the engine. That's not a good combination. I know where you're talking about too. It's the two front holes. We were just going to cap those in this new adapter plate that I'm doing. It's for the 3800 to hook up a power glide. Okay. Okay, trying to inform the diesel mechanic, yeah. What's a good cam for the 5.9 Magnum that won't kill drivability on a daily, but give it a little sound and power, something that can be controlled by the computer with HP tuning? Yeah, as long as the HP tuning has that and somebody can do that, then the mild cams that we tried, if you take a look at the video that I have up already on the comp cam on there, that worked good. And I think that this, the UT Awesome cam is going to be even torquier than that. Yeah, the AM cruise in the house. That's right. I have a 700 R4 right now, so it should work. Okay, cool. Yeah, a K24 and a Civic is going to be good. The guys at West Tech have a couple of those. The K series engine's really, it's really kind of impressive. The other one that I like that I'm living vicariously through my friend Jimmy and his NSX has the J series stuff, the little V6. Just blasted down the road in an RX-4, 8. Oh, so is it an RX-4 that has a V8 in it? I mean, RX-4 is already pretty cool. Or am I thinking of an RX-3? All right, Dan, thanks for showing up, man. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff. We got to only have a couple more minutes left. I'm really looking forward to getting everything together. I'm looking for 800 horsepower. That'll be good. Oh, an RX-8. Okay. With a 4.8. Okay, that's also good. Yeah, Daniel, let's you'll be, and we had that discussion last night that you can do a lot of stuff with cam or ported head and blower pulleys and intercoolers and all that stuff for the blower. And if you just put a turbo on it, it'd be, and I went through this not just with the 3800. I've gone through this a couple of times now in the past. One was when I did the single cam Civic back in the day with Oscar Jackson, who I love, at Jackson Racing. We put the little M45 on that thing, and we were trying to get the thing to go 150 miles an hour. And it was like I was discussing previously on the M90 discussion last night, is that you're having to spin the dog snot out of the blower. And in that case, it didn't have an intercooler. We tried water injection, and it's just, you're just near the limit of the power potential of the blower, unless you do lots of stuff. And we basically had a stock motor. We tried a Bill Good cam in it and headers and things. And ultimately I just kept hurting the motor because the charge temperature got really high. The water injection obviously helped that. But if you took a single cam and just put the turbo on it, and then it would make a lot more power at the kind of, because we were running 13 or 14 pounds on this thing, non-intercooled with water injection on it. And if we would have ran 13 or 14 pounds with a turbo with an intercooler on it and injectors and tuned it, it just would have been, it'd have been another 50 or 100 horsepower better, and we could have easily done what we were trying to do. And the same thing happened with I went down the same road with my Ford Focus. We put a a Jackson Racing blower on it, which worked great. And then I convinced Oscar to put the bigger blower on it. We went from the M45 to the M62, I think, or the M62 to the M90. I can't remember. I think it was the 45 to the 62. We put the bigger blower on it, and that worked good. And we ended up making like 235. What I wanted to do is get that little ZX3 to be able to run heads up with a then 4.62 valve Mustang GT. So we needed to get it to run. I think we've got it to run in the 13s. But again, it took a lot. It took the blower. There was no intercooler. I think we did the ERL injection on there, but it took ported heads from Central Coast Mustang from Dennis out there, ported head and cams. And, it took a lot of stuff. And later on, I would put an F-Max turbo on there and do a bunch of turbo testing on it for the book that I wrote on Focus stuff. And when we did that, it just, the power just like, it was so much easier to get. Big chunks of power just fell off, fell on it, I guess. Have you ever seen the Edelbrock LS3 cross ram intake? Yeah, I have a video up where I tested it. If you set it up with a twin turbo, could you blow each turbo separately into each side of the intake? Yeah, that's what you would do. Although on a twin turbo setup, you would have two turbos blowing into those and then each blow into each plenum. But that intake manifold has communication channels between the different sides. They're not completely separated like the Holley version is. The intake works very well. It looks freaking awesome. And it's one of the few intakes that I tested, or it might be the only intake that did better than the factory LS3 intake basically everywhere. It's heavy and aluminum, but it's all kinds of awesome. Let's see, Daniel. What are people talking about, Daniel, on the blower here? I'm running the 500, 500, 200, 200 crane cam you sent me. Oh, cool. Putting an air intake on a 360, an air gap intake on a 360 myself. Okay, so we'll go ahead and answer the poll here. We're looking at, does a dual plane carbureted intake make more peak torque than the kegger manifold? 55% are saying yes, and you guys in the 55 are correct. When I tested it back to back with a stock kegger one and a modified kegger one and the dual plane still had more peak torque. So the dual plane does do that. The kegger manifold did make a little bit more low speed power than that, but basically the dual plane was a really good upgrade on the Dodge Magnum motor, like it is on a lot of stuff. 78, 75, King of the Hill. At work right now, I'm making money so I can play and have all the toys. That's it. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm working. Did you ever get over to Todd's and pull the engine out? No, because he had to go into the hospital to get more chemo and stuff. So the day that we were trying to get it done, it didn't work out. Do you have any interest in my F-body upper and lower? I'm not going to run that test. It would be interesting, but where I have to finish up with the 3800. My wife is mad. I pulled the Galaxy out in the driveway and brakes laid down a 1/4 inch of rubber and back to back in. Well, you got to every once in a while just clean the plugs out. Yeah, it's not a good situation. But he's back on that program and I like your truck better than mine. Yeah, but you get to see the world. I don't know if Todd has a sandrail. He's building an LS2 to go in a truck, I think. One more minute for the AM team. So somebody throw out one more question. Let's see. Good morning, Richard. Do you have a link to the videos for the 3800 head? I don't think I do. Yeah, Todd is I ain't no punk. That's his handle. Corey, yours will be the last comment. So what percentage of junkyard LS engines have you changed the cam bearings on? 0%. I have had one set of cam bearings actually go out on me during a test. It was during the camshaft test, and it happened while I was testing the LS6 cam, and the bearings went out and seized the bearing on the cam. And so we had to take everything else out of that motor, and I did a block swap. So which was dumb. I should have just used a different motor. But we did all of that and then re-verified the baseline with the factory camshaft and swapped all the stuff over, the crank and the rods and the bearings, the pistons and all of that stuff, just the lifters, everything off of that motor we put onto another block and just ran it. We didn't check anything. So that's the only thing that's ever on the cam bearings. That's the only bad thing that's ever happened to me. But on all of them, on all the testing we've done, I don't think any of the big bang motors, none of those had, I don't think any of them had new cam bearings that I can remember. Tom, I would like to go find some snakes. That would be cool. I haven't been out actually on a dedicated thing in a long time. My Lisa's parents moved from where they lived before, which was a really great place out in Pinole. And whenever we went to their house to do anything, I went up in their hills, and they have lots of snakes up there, mostly rattlesnakes, but they had lots of them. So it was cool. And I haven't been out. And my family sold they had a ranch had been in the family for a long time. And they sold the ranch. And I used to go there 2 or 3 times a week, take the dogs out and let them run and chase squirrels and turkeys. And, they get to be dogs, which was awesome. So they loved it. But that I don't have access to that anymore. So I got to find some more stomping grounds to go take a look. Thank you guys all for showing up in the morning, and hopefully you got some motivation to go get those projects done. I'll go try to get some more, stuff. I'm going to go out right now and jack up the Nova, take the tire off, and go over and have that valve stem fixed so it just doesn't slowly leak down and I have to keep filling it up. And so it will stay solid the whole time. And I'm going to figure out, I just got another a couple of messages for various other things on camshafts and stuff. So I got to take care of that and I have to do the video on the 600 horsepower big block stuff. And I will see you guys, some of you guys all tonight. And then obviously the rest of you guys, I will see in the morning. Thank you guys for showing up. I will see you all later.